Hi everybody, and welcome to AQ's Blog and Grill. Today we're excited to have our guest, Melissa Durrell, here with us. And Melissa has a PR firm in the Waterloo region, and she's also a member of the local political scene. So this is kind of exciting for us. So welcome, Melissa.
Thanks, Alan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you. Now, public relations in the future. I mean, we've got this whole social media thing happening. The media is no longer what it was. What's kind of the future in your mind for public relations?
The future of public relations is a big question. Okay, so I think public relations for a company is really about communicating what you do, and Simon Sinek said it's not what you do, it's why you do it. And so you hire a public relations firm to tell people why you do what you do. And so I think, absolutely, the future of public relations is it is still media. Media is still a very important part of what we do. I think social media is a massive part of what we do. I know we talk about content all the time and how important content is.
Yes.
Well, you can write a blog all day, all night, and if nobody's reading it, what's the point of writing it? Right. So social media is a great way to get it out there. I talk to companies about if you're putting great content out there, you can get more hits than you can for a Globe and Mail article. So a public relations strategy, I think, spans a whole bunch of different spectrums now. And having a strong team that grows with your company is it's incredibly important, I think, for the success of a business.
Gotcha. So, and in some ways then, just picking up on your point, a good public relations strategy and tactical plan can help you recruit talent if they know a little bit more about you or your vision is articulated in a more powerful way.
So in Waterloo region especially, talent is retaining talent and keeping talent. That's a topic of conversation we have consistently. So if you want to be a part of a great company, you're going to do your research. We have options now. There's a lot of jobs out there in Waterloo region. So as company owners, we need to be talking about what kind of culture that we have. Right. And the way you do that is through storytelling, it's through social media, the different ways. I mean, for my company, we show the fun side of Durrell.com through our Instagram. It's a lot more fun. It's a lot less PR, but a lot more, here's what we do in our office, and it's often pretty goofy. We have a great time. But Facebook, our website, that's where we put out the strong content where we're talking about, communications coaching, pitch coaching, crisis communications, those kind of things, so we can help people.
Excellent. So, I mean, you're very well known, and your organization is very well known in this region for being at the top of the public relations food chain.
Thank you.
And part of that is because of some of the coaching and encouragement you've been giving to startups and their pitches or their presentations. How much fun is that for you?
Yeah, I mean, bring me an engineer with an awesome idea, and
yes.
It's probably one of my favorite things to do. I've been really lucky. I started as a journalist, and those skills where you talk to people about, you ask a lot of questions, and then you get a great story out of it. I mean, that's what I do. I craft stories. Right. And so I work with these young engineers, mathematicians, MBAs, and they've got this great business idea, but what they can't connect is, saying statistics and how much revenue you're going to make and the problem you're solving, the solution that it's going to be, doesn't stick. I mean, oftentimes you can hear 15 pitches, and I'm sure you have.
Yes.
And half the time you're thinking, oh, well, what's for dinner tonight? So what I love to do is get into a room with those CEOs and talk to them about what their story is. One of my favorite is Herman Lowe, he had a company called Views IQ. Yeah. And it's a microscope online. You would take a blood sample and shoot it back to a doctor. Yeah. So fabulous. Saving tons of money because they were sending blood samples by FedEx, saving time because this sample was going through FedEx. What we didn't have was a great story until we found Baby Sarah. Baby Sarah is like a thing we have at Communitech right now. Right. So Baby Sarah was flown into a hospital in rural BC. Her blood sample was seen within minutes because of Views IQ technology. Baby Sarah lives today because of Views IQ. We go from life-saving technology, and before we were talking about time-saving and money-saving. What are you going to remember when you walk out? Right. So what we want companies to do is have have stories that make the hair stand up on your arms,
Right.
full body goosebumps to say, I've got to be a part of this company. Because we're talking to angel investors and venture capitalists. And frankly, these people aren't easy to impress.
No.
So you have to have a great story, you have to have a great presentation, and you have to be different than everybody else.
Yeah. Well, I remember, and you probably helped with these guys too, Renemy,
Yeah.
coming out of Communitech and Hyperdrive. And
Mr. Clean.
Mr. Clean. Yes. And, they've been guests on the show. And I remember them practicing their slideshow.
Yep.
Guys, you understand that no investor is going to watch your slideshow. They're not? No, Scott. They're going to be watching you. You are a very distinctive looking individual.
Absolutely.
They want to hear your story. And it's such an interesting one.
He has a great story. There's Jim Moss, I know, has been on your show
Yes.
too.
Yep.
He's got a great story. Not every company has life-saving technology or has overcome, big life moments
Right.
to become that entrepreneur that they've always wanted to be. But every company starts with a passion, a great idea that they want to bring to market.
Right.
So, I don't want every company to think they have to have this fantastic story, but there is something that's going to make people listen to what they're saying, and they're going to listen to a story, and they're going to tune out to stats.
And investment comes based on, I think, the trust and the empathy that you have for the owners. And that story, Melissa, is absolutely key to that. Now, you also do crisis management. And I guess this comes back a little bit to your background as a journalist. And how do you help these emerging CEOs and founders start to anticipate that at some time you're going to find your organization or your product in hot water? How do you help them understand that there's a way to present their new story the best way?
Right. So most people don't get a crisis communications plan until they're into it,
Yes.
deep. What I always do, because I get pulled in when it's at its worst,
Yep.
and we don't have a ton of time to turn around. But like any journalist, I love to be in the middle of it when it's going down, right? So I often say to them, and it's really simple, get the 5 smartest people that you have in your company. So you've surrounded yourself with the best people, hopefully, right?
Yes.
So get those 5 smart people in a room with you, and then get a communications coach in. Get someone to come facilitate and come up with a plan that's going to take you for the next 2 weeks through. So that's easy peasy. If you actually are going to have the foresight to think about it and step back and say, okay, what are the things that could happen? I would still say the same thing.
Yeah.
Get the 4 or 5 smartest people in your company. Great CEOs surround themselves with really smart people. That's how you succeed.
Right.
So get those people in a room, spend a half day, buy some pizza and some great coffee, and actually think about what are the things, how are we going to troubleshoot these things when they do happen, or hopefully they don't.
Right.
But what is our messaging? Who's going to be our point person? And these plans hopefully will collect dust. But if they don't, you will be so thankful you're not sweating buckets trying to deal with a crisis when it happens.
Well, sure. I mean, part of your responsibility as the CEO or the chairman is to protect the stakeholders in your organization.
Right.
And that never gets thought of until it's too late.
But your employees have a lot in at stake too.
Oh, sure.
Because it's their company, right? Yeah. Your employees are what make your company amazing. So they have to have a say, I believe, in what what the communication is that's coming out of your company in those crisis times.
Yeah.
So, if you would be, I think, crazy not to involve those people in that.
Yeah, they're kind of your ambassadors
Yeah.
out into the community because they're already there. Melissa, there's a lot of people thinking about going into public relations. I mean, it is a great career. What kind of advice would you give them? What would you give them as advice as they're thinking about going into public relations?
I kind of fell backwards into it as a journalist. And so one of the things what I look for is someone who has a really well-rounded education. So I actually believe arts degrees are awesome because you have political science, you have English, you have history. And to be a great public relations person, you need to know a little bit about everything. And so I think I love a great arts degree, communications. I ask people, do you read one of the questions I ask in interviews is, do you read the news? Or when people ask me, I'm getting into public relations, I say, read the news every single day. Like, get involved, know what's going on in this world. So I think you have to, I'd like to see a well-rounded education.
Right.
It goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. Writing is so important in public relations, and I think being curious, being a great question asker, and a good listener.
Yeah, isn't that is fabulous advice? That, being curious, absolutely. Writing skills, that's different than just being talker.
Yes.
I mean, writing is a way to, I think, get the real story articulated.
Absolutely.
And then you get it right.
Yes. Yeah. And it is. PR is a lot about messaging. It's working with people. You cannot be an introvert if you're going to be in public relations,
right.
Or at least you won't be successful at it. You need to love people and be around them in times of crisis. I mean, you get the best and the worst of people, and that's your job. So you got to love it.
That's great. So now you've had your own organization for how long?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah. Hard to believe.
Yeah. Ups and downs as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, I mean, probably like all entrepreneurs, there's moments where you're not sure you're going to make payroll. So the stress of administration and when do you hire that extra employee as you're scaling up? I mean, it's those kind of things. I think that those are the things that keep me up at night. I went from being just me. And I now have almost six employees and an intern. So we scaled fast, and it's always that question of when do you hire without losing clients because they're not getting the attention they deserve.
Right.
So that's probably the hardest part. I always I'm a terrible employee. And so I kind of always knew I needed to be my own boss. Within my own company, I do like to be the main decision maker. I'm better at that, I think, than being told what to do.
So how do you feel then as a leader? Because I think of you as more of a leader than a boss. I think you're a coach, you're an encourager.
Mentor, I love that
Mentor,
word.
yeah,
Isn't that
there
so
you go.
important,
It is
especially for
important.
women these days?
Well, yeah, it absolutely is. So how do you feel when you see your newest staff member become better? I mean, actually go, Achieve.
Yeah. Well,
how's it make you feel?
Amazing. I mean, this is, I think, probably, I think I'm in this weird space where I still have mentors because I still have a ton to learn, but I'm also mentoring people as well. So it's really an interesting place to be. I'm loving it because, you can always give back and you can always learn more. So it's incredible when I see that people that I've worked with or have worked with me go on to do greater things. They're amazing. Someone I was talking to the other day said, how do you feel when somebody asks you for a favor? Like, you feel good because you want to do that for them. And half the time it doesn't take that much to do it, right? So I'd rather be that person who is connecting and giving back and helping them rather than the person always taking, right?
That's right.
Life's so much better that way.
I believe you are a giver as opposed to a taker.
My husband might know, I'm just kidding. Awesome husband.
Awesome husband. What is your husband doing? I know he's involved in the local community as well here in Waterloo. What's he up to?
He's a high school teacher.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Isn't that rewarding?
He's amazing. He's awesome. He's a high school teacher. He volunteers in the community with whatever he can. But, what I love about him is, I've got a job as I run my own company. I'm a city councilor, and so his other job is really just reeling me back when I get too far out, and it's a hard job.
I think Melissa, that if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, you need not just the team that works with you. You need the team at home.
Absolutely, yeah. Someone's got to feed me.
It's a great support system of that whole encouragement and yes, we can do this, as opposed to just the I thing. So thank you, Melissa, for being with us today.
This has been awesome. Thank you for having me.
Excellent, great. And thank you for tuning in to AQ's Blog and Grill. You can subscribe by pushing this button right here, and we're looking forward to seeing you again soon.
AQ's Blog and Grill.